One time this white man really angrily DM'd me in response to a video I made about the dog eating stereotype, and he was like, "Stop covering up for your culture, your people do eat dog." And I was like, no, dog eating is not a part of traditional Chinese culture. That was something that was sensationalized by the West. And he tried to white-splain my own culture to me, and he was like, no, dog eating goes back to 1700 BCE in ancient Chinese folklore. 1700 BCE? We are in the 21st century. But see, this is what Orientalism does. It sees POC as governed by ancient traditions and exotic backwards ways of life. They do this in the Western media all the time. Whenever they talk about China's COVID response, they talk about the mandate of heaven and Confucianism, which goes back 3,000 years. Imagine if you talked about Europe's COVID response and brought up the divine rights of kings. While white people are seen as enlightened enough to be complex individuals and separate from the history of their ancestors, the history of POC is always reduced to stereotypes. This is Haileyych Tan, who was killed the day before her 50th birthday in the Atlanta massacre. Meanwhile, her family in China were gathering to celebrate her birthday. That's her mother in the middle. She kept on asking if she could talk to her daughter on the phone, but her family couldn't bring to tell her that her daughter had been killed. So they cut a slice of cake and told her that her daughter couldn't come to the phone. Haileyych Tan was a Chinese immigrant from Nanning, China. She opened her own spa in America and was described as the sweetest person. She housed her own workers and had a cake ready for her customers on their birthdays. She worked 12 hours a day so her family would have a better life. Her and her daughter were best friends, and she had dreams of traveling the world. I cannot believe her life was reduced to a bad day. She deserved to hug her children and eat her birthday cake. Please remember their names and their stories. Give them the humanity that they were denied.
America is so racist. Why are Asians the highest earners in America?
Do you know that Asian Americans face the highest poverty rates in New York City? Chinatown restaurant and construction workers live here in 64 square feet cubicles for $9 a day. 1 in 4 elders live in poverty. Some collect 5-cent cans to make ends meet. Or what about ICE deporting Cambodian Americans who came here as children fleeing from a genocide that the US helped create? But when you think of Asian Americans, you think Crazy Rich Asians and Netflix's Bling Empire. Only model minority stories are publicized, while disadvantaged Asian Americans get ignored. The groups at the top were only let in the US if they were already rich and educated, and the groups at the bottom are usually refugees. This model minority myth not only erases Asian suffering and struggles, it's also used to demonize the Black and Latino community for living in poverty by denying the existence of systemic racism.